I'm delighted this morning to be joined by OBCM Chair and Burlington Mayor Marianne Mead Ward, as well as past OBCM Chair and Mayor of Guelph, Cam Guthrie, and OBCM's new Vice Chair, Josh Morgan, the Mayor of London. These three mayors and the other mayors we met with this morning are leaders working on the front lines to building strong, livable, and sustainable communities. Our government wants to do what we can to help these leaders meet the challenges of rising housing costs and population growth. And increasing the supply of housing is job number one. For decades, Ontario housing supply has consistently fallen short of demand. That's why we committed to building 1.5 million homes by 2031. And while we're making progress, there still is much more work for us to do. It's a joint effort that takes all levels of government, including our municipal partners. Today's announcement is about empowering municipal leaders to give them the tools to get the job done. Today, I am pleased to announce that Ontario is expanding strong mayor powers to mayors in 26 large and fast-growing municipalities, building on the initial expansion of strong mayor powers that our government introduced for Toronto and Ottawa last fall. The 26 municipalities that are set to receive these powers are among the largest and fastest growing in our province. Our government is determined to ensure these municipalities are set up for success and that they have the necessary tools to deliver on the housing commitments that they've made. The expansion of strong mayor powers is another step our government is taking, like our previous housing supply action plans and Strong Mayors Building Homes Act, to help communities get shovels in the ground faster. By cutting red tape, delivering growth, and confronting Ontario's housing supply crisis has to be done with bold action. I know our municipal partners share these goals, and I'm looking forward to working with them to get it done. Thank you so much for being here today, and we're pleased to answer any questions.
Minister, will these strong mayor powers that these other municipalities are getting, are they the same as the initial strong mayor powers you gave Toronto and Ottawa, or they include the second wave, which caused you guys so many political problems?
They're the entire strong mayor powers. So they include. Well, I'll take it back. So they include being able to choose a chief administrative officer. It's being able to hire certain department heads to create committees on certain functions as related to our extension of strong mayor powers. Everything we've done, whether it be vetoing certain bylaws that don't meet our provincial priorities, it's all around ensuring that those mayors have the tools to ensure that they meet their obligations of the pledge that they made, the housing pledge that they made, but at the same time ensure that, that as the Premier and I have telegraphed many times, that we want to make sure that everyone is set up for success. So the 26 are added to the initial two that we put through that ball.
So they can win, the new strong mayors at these other municipalities can win votes with 1/3 support at council?
Yeah, again, the suite of programs, starting with being able to appoint a CAO and certain department heads and present the budget, extend right through to all the other powers, including ensuring that they've got the votes on council to meet our provincial priorities. So
that is minority rule then at these 26 city halls. What about that is democracy? That's not democracy, is it?
We need to make sure, Richard, that we set our communities up for success. And as I said, when we tabled those two bills, we want to make sure they have the tools to get the job done. So,
yes, Mayor Morgan, do you think that's democracy, ruling like that, minority rule?
Yeah, so first off, I think every mayor is going to approach these powers differently. And in my city, the first step that I'm going to take is I'm going to sit down with our city manager and look at the full suite of powers. I can tell you I've had great success in achieving consensus of my council, and that's always the approach that I'm going to take on most issues to ensure that the will of all of the elected councillors across the city, their voices are heard in the discussion and debate. And, this is a suite of tools that are at the disposal of mayors, and I think each mayor is going to use them differently.
Powers at all if you've had great success working with the council?
Well, in some cases there may be mayors who won't use the powers at all ever. Like that will be the case that they may take in their municipality. But that's why I think each and every mayor will have to approach this differently and with their own city in mind. So I can only speak on behalf of my own city.
Minister, why was Newmarket not on the list?
Well, it's pretty simple. We extended strong mayor powers to every community that enacted a housing pledge. They did not, but we're certainly giving them and other municipalities the opportunity. There were 3 members of OBCM this morning who weren't part of the group, we'll be reaching out to them today and offering them the same opportunity to create a housing pledge. We'll work with them, as we will with Newmarket. We've made it very clear to Mayor Taylor that we want them to pass a resolution like everyone else did, and we look forward to that in the coming weeks.
Are you doing anything with the list of provincial priorities? Is that changing at all today?
It hasn't changed. It remains, our housing supply action plan, 1.5 million homes by 2031. But also, we need to ensure that things like transit, utilities, infrastructure, all work in the continuum of ensuring that we get shovels in the ground. So nothing's changed from the previous legislation.
Minister,
who
you
were
said
the
last year.
three-
Sorry, go.
You mentioned three members of OBCM who aren't part of this. Who are they?
Chatham Kent, Sudbury, Greater Sudbury, and Thunder Bay.
Is it all for the same reason as Newmarket?
And we just extended the initial housing pledge was to, we had a list of the fastest growing municipalities that had a population of over 100,000. Obviously, I wanted to be fair to the three members at OBCM that weren't asked to do a housing pledge. And as I said earlier, we'll be reaching out to them and a number of other municipalities inquiring about the desire for their mayor and their council to sign on to the pledge and do their part. The other thing I'll say is the municipalities we're talking about, the 28, represent about 1.2 million of the 1.5 million homes we need to build by 2031. So it's critical for us to ensure that we do everything in our power as a provincial government to ensure that they have the tools. But again, we'll continue to have dialogue with other communities. And I was very clear to the three other members of OBCM that today we'll reach out to them today with a letter, and start a conversation about creating a housing pledge for those three communities.
Do you know for sure that all 26 mayors want these strong mayor powers? Because we know Ottawa's not using them. Toronto could soon have a mayor.
That'll be homework for you.
Minister,
Would
you
you
said last
pull
year.
away those powers from council that changes direction, say in a year from now or after an election in a few years?
I'd be surprised with that, Jeff. Like I've said to you before, I've said to all of you before that, I've been in and out of politics for a few years, and I've never seen a situation where you've had consecutive elections at the federal, provincial, and municipal level where housing is the top issue. So, I would hope that the same conversation that mayors and councillors had last fall would continue with a collaborative relationship with the provincial government. So I'd be surprised if someone changed course.
You've had disagreements with people disagree about your policies, for instance, in the Greenbelt or expanding into farmland.
I've got 444 municipalities. Somebody's going to disagree with me all the time.
Would you look at someone and say, okay, you don't deserve these powers?
My goal is making sure municipalities are set up for success. So that was the impetus of the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act with Toronto and Ottawa. As I said at the time, we believe that we'll have studies show we'll have about 10% of our growth in the next decade will come from those two big cities. I wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to give them the tools to get shovels in the ground. The same goes with the 26 that we've added to the list today, and we'll continue to work with municipalities. So it's a collaboration. I don't think anyone is going to deny that we're in a housing supply crisis, and all three levels of government need to roll up their sleeves and get some stuff done.
On the dissolution of Peel, the transition board, now that the legislation has been passed, where are we in appointing that 5-member panel?
We're close. We're close. We've worked hard since the bill passed last Thursday to ensure that we put a plan in place. We're hoping in the coming days we'll have more to say with the transition board.
Give us an idea of the makeup. What sectors are these people coming from, and are any of them have any political leanings?
We're working through today to talk about who's on the board. We will be in a position very soon to announce the board and to have the board start their work.
So you said the big city mayors were one of the groups who were so opposed to the Housing Affordability Task Force recommendations that you couldn't move forward with it. Are announcements like today a bribe to get big city mayors on board with more aggressive housing policy than we've seen so far?
Yeah, I have very high regard for the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus. We had an exceptional meeting this morning. We had a fantastic meeting as well in Kitchener a couple of months ago. And really, we've cultivated an extremely collaborative relationship with OBCM, and really have got some great insights into some of the impacts of some of the government's legislation, and we'll continue to work with them. I've said this morning in response to a question that I look forward to being informed of some of the impacts that Ontario big city mayors have with our government. We're very collaborative. It's a great partnership, and I want to continue that partnership moving forward.
Minister, is
yeah, if you could speak to, I mean,
morning.
does today's announcement make you more amenable to some of the recommendations that did come out of the Housing Affordability Task Force?
So all of the big city mayors, that's 29 of us representing 70% of the population of Ontario, have signed on to our housing pledge. In many cases, it was unanimous. And so we have recognized the need to build affordable, attainable, supportive housing, deal with mental health and addictions, our homelessness crisis. All of this is related, and we can't do it alone. And so we are here continuing to build our relationship with the province and the federal government to make sure that every level of government is at the table to address those issues.
Minister Clark, the Premier didn't run on this initiative. The Mayor certainly didn't run on it. How come Ontarians haven't had a say in this?
Richard, I'll go back to the Premier's been on the record since the mid 2000s on this issue. It was discussed.
Campaign though.
It was discussed almost the minute that the Premier was selected as the leader of our party. And it should come as no surprise, given the fact that he's been on the record so many times, that this is a priority for him. We were clear why we first tabled Bill 3. We're in the middle of a housing supply crisis. We had a meeting with Ontario big city mayors and regional chairs in 2021 where they said very clearly to Premier Ford and I that it can't just be an imposition on municipalities to change their ways, to streamline their approval process. The province needs to recognize that there will need to be legislative and regulatory changes. In the election, we were very clear to Ontarians that said under the leadership of Premier Ford, a re-elected government would have a housing supply action plan, bill and regulations every year of a re-elected government. That's exactly what we're doing.
Minister, do you think that Minister's housing or building housing, is it become almost a post-partisan issue in the sense that you're giving more power to Bonnie Crombie, you're giving more power to Stephen Del Duca, you're giving more power to Andrea Horvath, you're giving more power to Patrick Brown? I mean, these are not necessarily people who have always been allied with Premier Ford.
Yeah, again, the message we received, the Premier and I, at that first big city mayor regional chair summit was that it can't just be municipal changes. The province needs to look at their processes. The province needs to look at how they deal with municipalities. And there was a very clear direction to us that we need to be able to give them the tools to support us in this common goal of ours to create more housing opportunities. This decision today builds upon the decisions we've made for the last year. I've had 6 bills passed in the last 12 months of our sitting. This is a priority for the government. We're going to do everything we can to get those shovels in the ground.
Past and present political rivalries or differences. That's what you're saying.
We're willing to work with any community that shares the common goal. Mayor Mead Ward indicated very clearly that 28 of the 29 big cities signed on to the housing pledge. Should be no surprise that 28 mayors now have the opportunity to use the strong mayor powers to get shovels in the ground.
Should there be future expectations of additional changes?